Welcome back to the Money Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Moses the Mentor. And on this episode, we're going to be diving into the world of real estate with Tyler Sarter, who's the co-founder of Promise Land Realty. He transitioned from a corporate marketing career to be a leading figure in the real estate wholesale market. So join us on this episode as we explore his journey, his strategies, and his secrets to his success. Let's go. Thank you so much, Tyler, for joining Money Focus Podcast. Really appreciate your time. The first thing I always ask my guests is to really just walk us through their career journey, professional journey, and in your case, how you started your company. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. For me, the journey started, back when I was a kid. Just to be honest, I was kind of raised in a real estate family, so to speak. My grandfather was really big here in Detroit as far as real estate and on the political landscape. So I was raised like around deals, but not old enough to participate in what was going on. But I just always was around it. My brother and I as well, who was my partner. And as time went on, the family business kind of fell off a little bit, you would say. And I decided to pick it back up like around 2015 when I first graduated from undergrad and was working a little bit in the corporate world, and decided that long term that wasn't really going to be the route for me. So I needed to start building my own business, and that it kind of fell back on what I always was raised around, and kind of put a spin on it and made it my own.
Nice. That's cool that you were able to be around real estate and entrepreneurship at an early age. Because, me, when I was growing up, I constantly heard, get a job, get a job, get a job. And it's no shame in getting a job, but it's just cool. I wish it was a balance in my upbringing, because it's like a job or nothing. That's all I used to hear.
Yes. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad's a dentist, but he had his own practice. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. They oftentimes still will try to project their fears on you based upon what their life experience was. So I always heard the same thing: get a job, get a job, get a job too, even though my dad was an entrepreneur. But these days he's come around a lot, and he's understanding the vision now. So everybody goes through that when you're going out on your own, for sure.
It can definitely be scary, for sure. So, but you did mention that you were an undergrad, you went to college. Mm-hmm. What was your corporate career like before you made this jump?
Right. So for me, I graduated from undergraduate. I got my degree from Tennessee State University at HBCU in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was actually in like marketing communications. So my first job was working for the Pennsylvania Lottery in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, like doing a lot of marketing work for them. But still, that's when I started to explore real estate. I mean, I worked in advertising agencies. I made the transition over. I worked in financial services, so fintech as well, in a marketing capacity. But then I was able to make the transition into corporate real estate related roles. So I worked for a commercial real estate news company, and that was kind of my foot into like using that as like my secondary education, like my second college, but in a professional way.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So while you were working there, what was the catalyst for you to really just say, hey, I want to make that jump and completely leave that corporate career though? Like, did you have a crazy meeting you had to storm out, or was it peaceful when you actually left the work, the 9 to 5?
Man, that's a great question, number one, but it's a multitude. I couldn't just put my finger on one specific thing. There was multiple incidents throughout the years. It's just, for me, it just felt unnatural. I was fighting against what I was naturally supposed to be doing the whole time. And I felt like if I would have made the transition a little bit sooner, I could have been farther ahead. But I mean, I've had multiple incidents, inconveniences, and just going through that, having to play that whole game is just not for me. It's just not for me. And no knock to anyone out there who has a job. I worked for 8 years in the corporate world, high level corporate world. So, it just gets exhausting after a while, just to be honest.
The word that comes up a lot. I experience it, and then I hear from other folks that it can be draining,
Yes.
it can be toxic.
Absolutely.
so, so I get it. But what's cool about when you do have a job and a corporate job, you do acquire skills that help you transition to be a full-time entrepreneur. So, what about your corporate experience helped made that transition for you a whole lot easier?
Yeah, so for me, I was always paying attention to what was going on while I was there, even though, I always had in the back of my mind my exit plan or my exit strategy. I think some of the most transferable skills were just paying attention to the planning of a corporation and how they plan for 10 years ahead and, put initiatives in place to put them in position to accomplish goals that might be 5-year goals, 10-year goals. The planning aspect from a business perspective was a highly transferable skill. The organization component, how the structures are organized, the organizational chart, building out a staff, a team, learning how people work together, how different people have different skill sets. So like the management perspective, and then just overall execution for me, just being able to execute within a set time frame, adhering to deadlines, and always striving to present the best product or do your best work for sure. So all of those things translated to where I am now.
Those are important skills. So why not learn those skills while and get
Hey,
paid at the
yeah,
same time?
hey, yeah,
Don't hate your job, just embrace your journey where you're at, and if you have aspirations to be an entrepreneur, just really walk through each day and figure out, hey, what can I take from this? I got a paycheck, but also what can I take from this and incorporate into my
yeah,
business? That's really key.
absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to us about your company. You say you and your brother are partners. What makes Promise Land Realty, unique? How did it come about, and what services do you provide?
So we're a full service real estate investment firm. That's how I would categorize it. I would say our biggest niche is off market investment opportunities in several markets across the United States. So it's like a great resource for a person who's looking to invest in real estate off market with better, more competitive prices. It's a low barrier to entry opportunity for people who are interested in investing in real estate. And then furthermore, we offer connections to lending for real estate investment opportunities. We offer real estate education materials as well. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop for, single family or multifamily real estate investing. And we're branching out into some development opportunities as well.
And you said your opportunities, is it across the country or is it primarily in Detroit?
I mean, I'm born and raised in Detroit, but I've, lived and made relationships all over the United States. So we operate in a lot of major markets, Detroit being one, Baltimore, Maryland being another, Memphis, Tennessee also being a major market that we operate in, St. Louis, Missouri. And we got stuff all over the place, Philadelphia and New York, California. But I would say those three that I mentioned are our major markets right now. But, stuff comes across the desk all the time.
The first three, I think you said Baltimore, Detroit, Memphis. Those are cash flow markets. I actually invest in Cleveland,
Oh, yeah.
and
I'm trying to
yeah, I
we need
love
to
it.
do something. I need to come.
Oh man, yeah. I can definitely talk to you about that. I live in Atlanta. My wife is originally from Cleveland, so we're a small mom and pop type of operation, but we do have residential, not commercial properties, but single family and duplexes in the east side suburbs of Cleveland,
Well,
and I love those spots. And but you do have to, when you said Detroit, because I had someone on my show who was like, don't invest in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's horrible.
yeah.
And you could easily say that about Cleveland, because there's some areas in Cleveland that I would love to invest in, but it just would take so much capital, a lot of government intervention,
Really,
just a united effort to really make that worthwhile. It wouldn't be something I could do alone.
really.
Is it similar like that with Detroit, where there's pockets that you shouldn't, put your eggs in that basket yet?
Like,
Or is it like, hey, get in early while it's cheap, dirt cheap, and just wait it out?
yeah.
Like how does it
The
work?
piece of advice, okay, and this is my honest advice, unbiased opinion. I feel like, there's pockets of every major city, that are more risk adverse than others. So you need to spend some time and really understand the culture of a city and the dynamics of a city before you decide to put money there. But a lot of the times, it's not about the play that you run, it's about who you're running the play with. So, you have to have the right people on your team because you can run the same play with a different set of individuals and have a totally different result. There's going to be bad apples everywhere, but you are the person who has to vet the people that you're working with. And that's the best piece of advice that I can give for any investors. Like, be slow to hire, quick to fire.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. On the first part, it sounds like you guys offer that whole off market. How does that work for your business? Are you guys wholesalers in a sense, or do you work with wholesalers? Do you go to auctions?
Mm-hmm.
What is your acquisition strategy?
A multitude of ways. So we're wholesalers. We joint venture with a lot of other wholesalers across the country as well. But a lot of it is just relationships. Really, is comes from relationships and referrals. So that means just doing good business when you get the opportunities. It leads to more business. It's like a domino effect. So I get calls from opportunities just kind of attract after a while, after you've been doing it for so long. It's like I tell anybody who's getting started, it's just, you just got to put in the work. It's 10,000 hours. And what you acquire along that journey that's going to be what sustains you and brings you business. As long as you're just doing it in an ethical way, keeping your name good out here, generally things will work in your favor.
I had Janelle Wilson on the show recently. She's based out of Philly. And she had mentioned that, wholesalers, when she first started, wholesalers would really love her because she was just a woman of her word. Like, when she said she's going to close, she's going to close. Is that something that you see on your end? Like you will, bring deals to someone that for sure is going to close and not play games and stuff like that. Like what are some best practices for an investor when they're dealing with a wholesaler to improve that relationship?
Yeah, you got to deal with somebody and you can tell, you'll know. You got to move with people who are on the same frequency as you and moving with the same just urgency as you. But I mean, time is money. I can't stress the importance of time is more valuable than money because time you cannot replace. It's the commodity you cannot replace. You can replace money, but time, and then real estate goes in cycles. It takes time to get these deals done. It's not like we're going under contract today and closing tomorrow. Oftentimes, a lot of these deals with all type of stuff you go through while a deal is in escrow, you could be anticipating a 15-day close and that stretches all the way out to 45. So time is the most valuable thing, and don't let anybody play with your time.
When you guys acquire or put homes and properties under contract, for someone to, because you mentioned something about a lending arm or some type of financing. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Like, so if I'm an investor and I'm interested in the property that you guys have acquired, what services exactly do you offer? Do you partner them with like a broker, or is it something you do in-house?
Both, actually. If you're interested in doing, for example, a fix and flip rehab loan, there's products out there that we can connect you with that will give you 100% of the rehab costs, 80% or 85% of the acquisition. And that's pretty darn good. I mean, depending on credit score, obviously, and that's really easy to get funded within, 10 days for a, say, project, as long as it meets the qualifications of the lender. And there's multiple different lenders that we could shop the deal to. So you have options as far as, interest rates and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the lending arm. We have an application on our website as well, Promise Land Realty LLC.com, as well as our deals are always updated every time we get a new deal, which is pretty much every day to 2 days updated on the website. So that's like the resource, for everything.
So if I'm interested, I go ahead, I go to your website, I look at your deals, I say, man, this will work. Yeah. I reach out to you, and then from there, it's just a matter of just, well, do I have cash or what type of funding or whatever? And you guys can help with that, and then boom, you close.
Yeah, we try to be as vertically integrated as possible to help people streamline the entire process from contract to reselling after you've completed the rehab. I'm a licensed real estate agent as well in Georgia and in Michigan. So I definitely love that Atlanta market down there. I lived there for 6 years.
I'm in Atlanta, man.
Yeah, I lived there for 6 years, so I loved it down there.
Gotcha. Well, I'm in Gwinnett County, like far in Gwinnett.
Up north. Yeah.
Yeah.
North side.
Cool. What would you say as far as like the future for your business? Because you said vertically integrated. The one thing I didn't hear was property management. Mm-hmm. Is that something? Do you have any relationships or PMs that if I'm out of state that you can say, hey, well, tap into this one, or is that something you guys don't touch at all?
Yeah, so I have in the past, I have managed properties for, especially here in Detroit, we have a lot of out of the country investors because when the real estate bubble burst way back when, 2008, 2009, was a flood of international investors came and acquired properties in Detroit. People from Australia. I work with investors from Australia, Italy, obviously Canada, a lot of Canadians.
Yeah, I'm practically in Canada.
Yes, like Canada. But yeah, I have offered property management services in the past for, those situations. But to be honest, that's not really where we want to go in the direction. I think property management is really, it's valuable. There's money to be made in it, but it requires a lot of time and attention. And you need a lot of units to make it make sense. If you think about you're only collecting 10% of given said rent for the month, that means if the rent is $1,000 a month, you do the math on that. So you would need to manage a lot of units. So that's just, would rather use our energy in some other arenas. But I do have great relationships with some property managers across Detroit. And that's very valuable for Detroit as well, because you need somebody who knows these neighborhoods and once again knows the dynamics of the city and knows how to navigate.
Do you ever run into any issues where certain property managers won't even manage a property in Detroit because of, the area might be high crime or something like that?
Yeah, you run into those situations, but what I can say, Detroit is a unique place with a lot of culture, and we're definitely next up as far as we're on the rise. The trend is there. It's not going down anytime soon. So it's like, you better ride the wave while it's on the way up, because it's not coming back down at this point. Like the trajectory of the city is, rapidly moving in the right direction.
I hope so, and y'all can bring some of that wave over there to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So my properties can appreciate too.
Yeah. Cleveland is a great market.
I've been to Detroit, and not every part of Detroit is what people think. It's a lot of beautiful areas in Detroit, and I guess the outer suburb area is really, really nice. I was impressed. And I just think home affordability, I think the Midwest is just, people are going to everybody can't live in Atlanta. Like, I moved to Atlanta in 2000. It was very much affordable then. I was 16, 17 years old. So it was like, I had an apartment when I was 18. It was like probably so cheap, right? Those days are over. Like, those days are over in Atlanta. If people want to, really get something of substance, a nice place to live, they're really going to have to go to more affordable areas. And, I think the Midwest is just prime for it. That's why I comfortably invest in Cleveland because the infrastructure is set up for more people to move back.
Yeah.
So traffic is still pretty easy. So I think we can accommodate more people up there. The buildings, the history, everything is really beautiful up there, and it's very similar in Detroit. So hopefully it comes back.
Yeah, for sure. It's just that it's on its way. It's not a hopefully. It's already happening. It's like if you don't
It's
get in
coming.
now, forget about it.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
For someone, let's take the for me to take the investment hat off. If someone was interested in like being a wholesaler or starting a real estate investment firm like you have, what are some skills that you think they would need out the gate? Because I hear wholesaling a lot. People say, "Hey, you don't need any money to make money in real estate," and after you talk to them a little bit, you uncover they're talking about wholesaling.
Mhm.
Is that really true that you don't really need any money? You just need hustle or whatever? Can you kind of talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, but that with any business, that only is going to take you to a certain point, right? Like you can build up, what the goal is to not stay there. Yeah, you can wholesale for a while and build your foundation up, but eventually you need to get in the game. You need to own something, and that's going to require capital. But wholesaling, yes, is definitely the foundation. It's the easiest, lowest barrier to entry into making money in real estate with relatively no capital of your own out of your own pocket, But it's not as easy as people are making it seem out there. As a wholesaler, you're going to run into a wide range of characters along the way, people that you deal with, property owners, buyers, sellers, other wholesalers. It's a whole dynamic to it that is not just as cut and dry as it may seem. You need to really understand psychology, really, to be a successful
Yeah.
wholesaler. They'll understand how people think.
I know you've been talking a lot of industry jargon and stuff like that. For people who have never heard of the concept of
Yeah.
wholesaling for real estate, can you explain it as if you were, talking to a fifth grader
Yes.
on what exactly it is?
Yeah, so wholesaling is normally done off market, which means off the multiple listing service. So deals that are off market, where a person basically brokers a deal or middleman's a deal between an owner of a property and a buyer. So how it actually works is you would, establish a contract with a seller where y'all agree upon a certain price, and your contract would have to have an assignability clause in the contract that would allow you to actually sell your rights. You're actually selling your rights to your contract to an end buyer who then acquires the property. So if that kind of makes sense, that's how it works. So you put a property under contract and sell your contract to the buyer for your fee that you make in the middle, which is your wholesale fee.
I reach out to you. We agree to a price of $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our agreement.
Right.
So you're satisfied. I'm going to buy your house for 100,000.
Right.
But there's a clause that says, you said it's called an in buyer clause.
Yeah, so it's called an assignability clause.
Assignability
Or
clause.
you
Gotcha.
might also see it where it's called you have equitable interest in the property, which allows you to market the property for sale as a part of your contract. So then you would say, hey, I have this property. I believe I got it under market value at 100,000. I'll sell you this property for 150,000, and then that 50,000 is yours.
Scot free.
Yeah.
Man, and yeah, I mean, so conceptually, yeah, that sounds great. It sounds easy, but what you were talking about psychology, I mean, just getting someone to agree to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure the tactics on how, because again, it's off market. So these are people that are not waking up saying, I want to sell my house. You're contacting them kind of cold, saying, hey, I want your house. Can we make a deal? So you got to work through that. So I'm sure it's multiple
Yeah,
contacts.
it's being a good negotiator, having good negotiation skills, And then overcoming objections as well is a big part of it. You have to make people, see the vision, what's in it for them, achieving a fast sale, not having to pay in a seller's position, not having to pay realtor fees because on market transaction, the seller, traditionally pays both their agent fee and the buyer's agent fee. So you have to be able to overcome objections and get the ink dry on your contract. But it just comes from repetition, and learning along the way.
The one thing I always curious about for that wholesale process is, let's just say you lock it in and you say, hey, you're going to close in 30 days. But if you don't find a buyer in 30 days, do wholesalers just pretty much say, hey, I'm just going to have to buy it? Or do you kind of, ask for more time to close? What do people mostly do?
What you should do is actually work backwards. I work backwards. So I deal with the buyers first and identify what types of properties they want to buy. Then I go find those properties. So it's more beneficial to you and you'll have a much higher success rate if you identify the buyer first and just go find what they want to buy, as opposed to finding a seller and hoping that you can find a buyer at the end. But to answer your question, you should always put 2 clauses in your contracts as well. This will help a lot of people. Your contract shall always, number 1, be subject to satisfactory inspection. And number 2, you can always throw this in there, subject to partner approval before closing. So as long as you have a due diligence period of an inspection period in your contract, and if you don't find a buyer by then, you kind of have a out. But the object is to not get caught with a property or in breach of contract. So you have to be kind of savvy, and that also comes with experience as well.
That's definitely interesting. So, it can be done. Wholesaling, can be lucrative, sounds like, but it's not easy.
No.
So don't let people fool you.
Get rich quick schemes are for the infomercial,
For the infomercials, that's right. That's right. But again, if you get good at it, I mean, finding properties off market or just finding properties in general below market value, it's it's huge, So you did mention that, wholesaling is a good starting point, but at some point you have to own. Mm-hmm. So do you personally, own properties? And if so, can, talk a little bit about your portfolio?
Yeah. So I started off, I bought my first rental in a suburb of Michigan called Royal Oak, probably 2017, 2 years after I started wholesaling. So it took me 2 years before I could make my first investment property. I rented it out actually in a very unique situation through AAA insurance, was paying for someone who had to, get replaced. A tree fell on their home. So I was getting paid directly from the insurance company, which was great. Didn't have to chase down any rent. Man, I recommend if there's a way for people who own real estate to connect with insurance companies, that's almost better than Section 8. But moved on from that point. Did some properties that I held for a while and then let them go, flipped them. But now more so I'm focused on different types of not the traditional real estate portfolio that you would think of. Tend to think a little bit outside of the box. I actually liquidated a lot of my assets to pivot in the direction of stuff like assisted living facilities, halfway houses.
Yeah, I've heard great things about those. I got someone on the show. You got to watch that episode. I'll send it to you personally when it come out.
I definitely get all the game on that. But yeah, there's a lot of government money out there for those types of properties. I'm more so liking to have my money guaranteed, chasing down a tenant or, someone chronic late payments, because especially if you have properties that are financed, you don't want to put yourself in a bad position where you become a slave to the bank. So
there you go.
I want to be in a position where I know my money is coming on this date, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I think like government programs and stuff like assisted living facilities are a little bit out of the box, but it's, two asset classes people should be taking a look at.
I'm definitely a fan of government programs too. All of my rental units are Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to encourage people to really look into Section 8 because you can do it the wrong way too. You know what I'm saying? So you got to know how to do it the right way. Yeah, it's a headache. Sometimes they nitpick on inspections. Yeah, they take forever to improve a tenant. But once you get them in there and you get the right tenant and the right property, they don't leave.
Nope.
And that money just constantly come in. So I'm with you 1,000% on that.
Yeah, for sure.
1,000%. Close this out. What final thoughts or advice would you like to give to the audience? And also let us know how we can reach you, your company, shout out your website again, also your social media. So I just really appreciate you, and the floor is yours, man. Thank you.
Well, man, you guys can definitely get in contact with us through our website, Promise Land Realty LLC.com. If you have any questions or want to find out about any properties, you can email us directly at investments@promiselandrealtyllc.com. Our Instagram is Promise Land Realty. And we're also on Twitter at Promise Land REI. We'd love to get in contact with you. We love to get some deals done with you guys out there. I guess just to wrap up, one piece of advice that I could give anybody who's on their journey of just self-improvement or, entrepreneurship, whatever the case may be, is just what you learn along the journey is the reward, not the final destination that you have in your head. So it's never easy, but stick with it and, move with integrity and, be ethical in your dealings and good things will happen. You do good, good will follow you.
Sound good to me. So, I appreciate you, Tyler, man. You got a great business. You and your brother, it's so cool that you guys are partners and keeping that family tradition rolling. Yeah. Gave us some great insight on wholesaling and just how your vertical integrated business operates. So really appreciate you, man. So, close this out.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.